Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming again to another edition of Mel's Table Talk. Tonight, we have, as panelists, we have Michelle, we have Kat, we are hoping to have Julie Ann when she can get in. She's having technical difficulties. And we also have, as our star panelist, Dark Wolf from Dark Wolf's Den. So tonight we're going to talk about a variety of topics. We're going to talk about some new recent scientific discoveries. Julie Ann will tell you and introduce herself to you and her story. And Michelle's done some very interesting recent videos and testimonies that I'm sure she'd be willing to talk to us about. We're going to talk about some Bible changes, and we're going to discuss things like light workers and what they are, as well as channeling and what that is. So without further ado, would Kat, you introduce yourself to the audience, and then Dark Wolf, do you want to tell them about your channel, etc.? And Kat, tell them about your channel as well, of course. Kat, do you want to introduce yourself? No? Okay. She might be having technical difficulties again. What about you, Dark Wolf? Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience and tell them all about your channel?
Well, I guess I could if you'd like. Hey, guys, for those who don't know, I am Dark Wolf from Dark Wolf's Den. We do the Mandela Effect Theory series, as well as a couple nights a week we go live streaming, just discussing the Mandela Effect in general. So please come over and check it out. I'm always open to new ideas. I love when people post on my stuff, give me new things to think about. And here I am. So I appreciate you having me on, Mel. Appreciate it very much.
And I'm just old news. I'm on here. I'm with Mel all the time. I'm her number 2, and my channel is Michelle's Opinions. And I just looked at what our topic is this evening, and if there's a possibility, if our wonderful Magi could join us, he's done some pretty deep studies into all of these topics. It would be wonderful to have him pop in and join us.
Okay, guys, I'm sorry, but we're having some technical difficulties. We were having technical difficulties before. All of us were having separate issues. It's been, I don't know what's going on tonight. The energy's been very strange. Each one of us has been having issues. And now it's my turn. I was the only one who wasn't having unusual issues, and now I am. So, Dark Wolf, can I ask you, while I try and sort this out, to talk about what you're up to, what you're up to on your channel, what you got coming up, and introduce some of these? I believe you wanted to talk about some scientific discoveries.
Thank you, Mel. I appreciate that. So, yeah, over on my channel, we've been doing a lot of theory work. I try to put together different ideas from the community and whatnot, and you know, our main focus is trying to figure out what's going on. Recently, I've been focusing on shifts themselves, and if we can kind of time them out and figure out. SMQ was even talking about earlier, shift forecast. It's funny. I start thinking about things, and other channels start talking about them on videos, and synchronicities are really wild. The discoveries, there's been 2 discoveries over the last couple of weeks that I find very intriguing, mainly because the time frame is so small. So we had a brand new magnetic field all of a sudden appear, discovered by science just a couple of weeks ago. Then last week we had brand new DNA that just happened to be discovered by science. It's really strange because, number one, I thought we'd pretty much figured out a whole lot of the DNA for us to find a brand new strand and form and all that, which I will talk about on another live stream later on my channel. It's just really strange that we have these two sudden discoveries from science in this short amount of time. And it's almost like, to me, and this is conjecture that follows, an opinion only, if science finds an ME before we do, they would want to throw it out there long before we would ever actually, like, catch it. So,
That's pretty interesting, and you're right. As much as they say that, they've been working with the body and, dissecting and autopsies. And I know you said you're going to talk about it on your live stream, but can you give us some hints so we can know what we're going to be looking forward to on that topic, please, Darkwolf?
All right, I can definitely do that. So, what we're looking at is it almost reminds me of crocheting in a way. And we'll get into this deeper again on my live stream, but if you crochet, especially like a double helix, and you wanted to add a strand to the crochet, you'd have to undo some knots and pull it out and make, strings. And that's exactly what this new DNA looks like. It's almost T-shaped, like a circle with just straight lines instead of the double helix. And it just all of a sudden appeared in the cells of every human on the planet.
Could that have something to do with a lot of people reconnecting and realigning themselves and getting connected back with their, whether they call it higher self, Holy Spirit, spirit guides? Could this DNA that has just appeared have something to do with the supernatural, spiritual things that are going on with all of us?
Well, that's a wonderful question, Michelle. It really very well could. And I'm kind of theorizing here that, these energy waves that have been coming from space, I've long theorized that they could be having effect on the so-called junk DNA and turning it on. If the different DNA suddenly gets turned on, and understand 80% of our DNA is considered, quote, junk DNA. So if any of this starts to get turned on, if it starts to be activated, I would think like adding a knot in a crochet, it would look like this, at first being pulled out and drawn out before it's, put all back together in the double helix shape. Could it be spiritual effects? Yes. It could open up who knows how many effects. Mutation could have many, many different effects on the human core, from psychic abilities to physical superhuman abilities, like almost mutants, if you will, the X-Men. They always gain these super crazy, weird powers. It very well could be the DNA opening up could affect our collective consciousness to the point, because I believe we're all collectively connected at some point, even if it's a very, very deep core level. So it really could affect, the new DNA could enhance that connection to each other, or many, many other things in the body.
And that kind of goes along with some of the journey steps that I seem to be going through. The communication, the ability to be able to heal, the manifestation, and then walking through it and experiencing it. The having the vivid dreams that are prophetic. Like I'll have a dream of something and then walk through it. I mean, the understanding that we're manifesting what's going on and we're here to experience it in our physical body. It's wow, that it's all like tying together neatly through the science, through the spirituals, through the physical, through the supernatural. It's all weaving together real nicely. That's amazing.
I agree, and I think a lot of it's got to do with frequencies and energies too, like we were discussing a moment ago. These new energies hitting the earth could be having any range of effects. Psychic abilities, they could be amping those up. It seems to me that a lot of people in our community are starting to have gifts either surface, or the gifts they already know about are enhancing incredibly.
Does it seem to you like we are all different instruments that when the frequency that resonates with the sound that maybe we're putting off, hits us, then that will enhance that gift that you've already stirred up in you, like hundredfold. It does seem just here in the past week or 2 weeks, things seem to be ramping up. We're seeing stuff in our skies, we're feeling stuff in our bodies, and things that have been stirred in us are coming back like at us 100-fold. And it seems like we do set off a frequency, like a tone of, like, in an orchestra, a certain key that we set out, from our, and depending on our mood, how we're feeling that day, we could be setting out a different tune, and we seem to be magnifying it out intensely. So have you noticed any differences going on with you, and with you guys are up north, do you notice significant differences in these past couple weeks with what's going on in your life, of things enhancing and being magnified?
Yes, actually, I have noticed that. Manifestation has been off the charts lately. I've had synchronicities that are just mind-boggling, like the universe blatantly slap in the face talking to me. And they're all kind of minute things, but it's enough for you to step back and go, wait a minute, a whole bunch of weird things happening in a very short amount of time. So I have noticed it ramping up in our neck of the woods just as well as everywhere else. It kind of goes also back to the 100 monkey experiment. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about when you were discussing that. The energies we're giving off, kind of like the 100 monkey experiment. For those who don't know, if you teach 1 or 2 monkeys to do something, they'll learn it. If you teach 5 or 10, they'll learn it. If you get over a certain amount, 100 in this case, then monkeys all over the world will start doing it just randomly. So we're just a lot alike in that aspect. And again, I feel we're all connected. So it brings me back to that. If we are all getting the same frequency or getting to the same energy, it's going to be amplified if all of us are affected like that. Because, again, the 100 monkey experiment, you get enough together, it's going to amplify the frequency.
So let's talk Mandela effects. I know that is your forte. What do you got for us?
Oh, wow. Where do I start? Oh, also in the ramping up, I have noticed there's been a ramping up of dissension a little bit within the community. And anybody in the community, please come together. Anybody who's arguing and fussing and fighting, you're doing the wrong thing. We're here to figure this out together. We're all affected. There's no reason for it. So as far as Mandela effects, what have I got? Wow. So I've been... Oh, sorry. Right. The person in my ear suddenly started talking. All right. My apologies. So we have...
Did you just hear the voice of God in your ear?
It sounded more like a goddess. I think it was Goddess Amber. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I got Amber in my ear over here. Anyway, I found a lot of Bible things. I've been doing a Bible study. Well, I say Bible study, a Mandela study of Bible verses here recently, and covering on my live streams. And some of them just really bother me, especially when I go back and look at the etymology of some of them, and how I really don't believe the etymology was what it was at one time, but I can't prove that. But some of these, like Luke 7:20 and Matthew 14:18, both speak of John Baptist, not John the Baptist, but John Baptist, which is one that I find very, very odd. How about yourself, Michelle?
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to straighten out with Mel Bell some technical issues here. I'm sorry. Was that you said on the biblical changes, Dark Wolf?
Yes, on the biblical changes. Hold on, guys. Bear with us real quick. We're having some technical issues, and see if I can't sort this out real quick.
Thank you. I wish we could play some elevator music for you guys. Just give us a chance.
Okay, so yeah, Michelle, you and I got to hold the show for a little while. I believe we can do that. So, All right. So yeah, a lot of the Bible changes are really weird. Like I was saying, John Baptist instead of John the Baptist. What do you remember, Michelle?
I've got the God is speaking in my ear, and well, I can. Let me just tell you, in the very beginning when this effect started happening, I had just got done reading in the Bible, and it was about penny and the denarius. Oh, I'm gonna have to mute her. Hold that thought. Okay, it was a denarius in the Bible. Okay, and then I went back the very next day, and it said that Caesar's face was on the penny. I felt that like zing all the way through my body, and it just kind of shook me. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is the unchangeable word of God. What? And then the personality of Christ has changed. I mean, he's telling people to, if they won't worship him, to bring them before him and slay them. Just all of the things that I knew of him, his personality, the dynamics. I was like, what is going on? Now, I am not, that's what I was saying. Magi would be wonderful because he's got this stuff down. But when these changes started happening, I was thinking, well, maybe it is to show us to stop worshiping a book and seek for God, the living God, instead of why are we looking to a book when we could be seeking and connected with the living God?
Absolutely. And somebody come at me on a post the other day, and they made a good point. They said, remember, God is the same today, tomorrow, and always. He's unchanging. I will take that under consideration, but to me, if the Bible itself is changing, the whole meaning is changing. God wasn't always, today, yesterday, and forever. In the aspect that the Old Testament God was very warring and cruel and punishing and all that, whereas the New Testament God was very loving and forgiving and wholesome. It just seems to me that there's two different stories going on in that same book there as far as God is concerned.
And, I have to say, the God that I met in my seeking was all unconditional love. There wasn't this judgment, and this one's better than that one. And, the culture, it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what life you chose to live here, what country you were brought up in. It's unconditional love for everyone. So the one that's being portrayed in the Bible, I haven't met that one. I've only met the unconditional, all forgiving, the one that I was acquainted with as a child is the one that I met. The one that says, how many times should I forgive? And he said 7 times a day. The person said 7 times a day, and Christ says, no, 70 times 7 times a day, meaning an unlimited amount of forgiveness. That's right. The God that I met. So, and that's the one that I communicate with. So, that I think it's, kind of like a message to seek yourself. Everything, there's nothing that any one of us can do that the other one cannot do. We are all able to connect back, go after our passions, do it with your whole heart, and just watch the wonderful manifestations around you. That's the messages that I've been getting, and they're all beautiful, and there's no judgment, there's no hellfire, there's none of that stuff. So it's just an amazing time to be alive. I'll say that is for sure.
I definitely agree. It is an incredible time to be alive. To even be able to see these changes at all and acknowledge them is incredible in and of itself. So here, let me pull up another verse real quick. I've got on screen the 1 Corinthians 13. So some people argue that charity was in here certain times, and I'll give them that. Fair enough. But this one right here, 13:4, I had the plaque. And this one says, charity suffereth long and is kind, envieth not, vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. That used to be love for me. I had the plaque. Love is not envious. Love suffers long. Love is not proud of itself, is not puffed up. I don't remember it being charity in that particular instance, whereas a lot of people, or some people, have argued that it is. So there's one for you.
And just today I did 20 different steps on that I've noticed that are pretty similar in so many different people, different walks of life, different testimonies that I've heard, including my own, of what we all seem to be going through, not in any specific order. They come to us at different times, and we're met where we're at. And I'm trying to tell people, through my channel is, you're met where you're at. Don't pick up burdens that aren't yours. You are perfect and wonderfully loved. And, because with all this chaos stuff going on around us, it can be a pretty scary thing for a lot of people. But we all seem to be going through the same type of phases. And it's almost like, well, I got through that phase, and you graduate and then you go on to the next one. And each one, it's like being more and more purified, more and more open-minded, more and more loving, unconditionally loving towards each other, respecting each other's sovereignty. And I agree with you. The fighting amongst each other and all of that stuff, it's really, when as we're walking this out, that seems to be a stage. I call it the judgment day stage. I actually did a video on that too. You go through that stage where you're judging everything good or bad and putting labels on it. Then when you pop out the other end of that, all those labels fall away. And then they're meaningless. The only reason they had any meaning to begin with is because we put meaning on them. We're the ones that put the value on them. We're the ones that, put the conditions out there to be met. And once you realize that you're unconditionally loved, how can you put conditions on your brothers and sisters of which you're not having to worry about yourself? So once you realize you're unconditionally loved, you unconditionally love everyone else around you, no matter what their circumstance, no matter where they're at in their life. And you respect their sovereignty because it is a choice. Although we want people to become aware by the Mandela effects and the wonderful things going on to show us, who and what we are, you got to also respect that some people still want to be, engulfed in the game. This is a place to grow, expand, experience. I think our subconscious can do manifestations, and we can walk through it in our consciousness, and it feels so real, so tangible, and you get more out of that, getting more lost in the game, the more experience that you get. But as time is progressing along, some of us are waking up to the game, peeking behind the veil, and it's just a wonderful time, to become self-aware with unconditional love in our hearts for everybody, for each other. Back at you, Michael.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Unconditional love is such a concept that is not really considered anymore. I was, albeit to say, I was married to a woman who didn't understand the concept at all. She put conditions on everything. And I'm not picking on her per se. That's just one example of my personal life. But I've met a lot of people like that who, I'll love you if you're like this. Well, I'm sorry, I can't love you. You're not like that. I can't be around you. That's not the way we're supposed to be. I believe or agree completely. Unconditional love is the way we should be. Accepting of all people, no matter how rude and mean they want to try to be. And the more mean they are, the nicer we should try to be. Now, mind you, yes, that in itself is a chore. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound hypocritical at all.
But we have to be patient, though, see, because we've got to understand that they have their sovereignty too. If they want to be deeply engulfed into their experience to expand, We have to show the patience to allow them the room that they want and give them their sovereignty, respect them how we want to be respected. To try and force an awakening onto somebody is really, it could be shortchanging them of their very experience they came here to have. So, I mean, it's a lot to wrap our noodles around, but, you know, the concepts are, you know, they're just making so much sense. It's like things are just clicking together. And I walk this out, you know, daily. I get new understandings daily, and it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you something, Dark Wolf. It is 3 minutes till 6. You know, I know the live stream is going, but I think, you know, this being Mel's show, let's try and, if you guys in the audience don't mind, give us 30 minutes to try to fix these glitches and reapproach this back online with our hostess. This is her show, and give her the honors of being the one asking the questions and actually hosting her own show. So, Darkwolf, are you
You're doing
okay
such
with
a
it?
wonderful job.
But this isn't my channel. This is hers, and you'll see she's really, really good. But I want to make sure that you're okay with that schedule, Darkwolf. Can we take a 30-minute pause and try and regroup and get these glitches sorted out? Are you okay with that?
Scheduling is not an issue for me. We can definitely do that. I got plenty of time before I have to be anywhere specific.
Okie doke. All right, you guys, we're going to hop out. We will see you guys at 6:30. Peace.
Bye, everybody.